to the entertainment Talking Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video as the New York Giants have finished up their interview with Kris Richard of the Dallas Cowboys. He's a candidate that I was actually pretty intrigued by. Now, do I think he'll be the head coach? No. In my previous video, I suggested that I could potentially see him being a very good defensive coordinator. And there's a number of factors that I would be attracted to him. The reasoning behind that as the New York Giants TC. I actually think it makes a lot of sense. Now, I don't know if it'll happen, and the head coach that comes in here is going to want to have a clear say as to who that will be, and maybe Richard will be that head coach. Who knows? He could have blown them away. You never know. He's certainly not the favorite, though. But a lot of guys may like some of the things they hear about Richard. He's still young. I think he's 41 years old. He's the second youngest head coaching candidate that they will be bringing in. He went to school at USC and played cornerback under Pete Carroll. Later, he was drafted in the third round by the Seattle Seahawks, the team that Carroll would later coach. He played there for, I think, 3, 4, 5 years. He was traded. He played about 7 years overall, 5 or 6 years overall in the NFL, and he moved around to 3 different teams, retiring finally with the Oakland Raiders. As soon as he retired in 2008, Richard went back to USC, his alma mater. Seems to be a pattern here with most of these coaches, and it makes sense. It's usually where you're going to get your first coaching gig, and he was hired by former head coach Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll, of course, one of the better coaches in the NFL. He's got a Super Bowl under his belt, outside of that awful decision on the 1-yard line, but we're not going to talk about that. And he was hired as an assistant secondary coach with USC. Later on in 2012, he followed Carroll to the Seattle Seahawks. And his big claim to fame, what got him, notoriety, was his work with the secondary there. He came on as the secondary coach, and he created the Legion of Boom. He was the coach in charge of that when that secondary took off. That, of course, turned out to be the best secondary, arguably in the history of the league. It was that good. It was the best defense in football when they won when they won that Super Bowl. And Richard was widely credited with that. He then became the defensive coordinator, and in 2015, the Seahawks had the number 1 ranked defense in all of football. In 2018, the Dallas Cowboys brought him on, and he was a hot name in NFL circles. I remember when they hired him, a lot of people thought he could be the Dallas Cowboys head coach in the near future. Okay, they brought him on to be to improve their secondary. Obviously, that was their weakness in the defense. They had a strong linebacking core. They had good pass rushers. They needed help in the secondary. And the big name that you read all over the internet, the guy that he improved the most, was former first-round pick Byron Jones. Byron Jones was initially drafted as a cornerback. They transferred him to safety, the Dallas Cowboys. He then brought him back to corner, and he had a Pro Bowl season under Richard's tutelage in 2018. The Cowboys, of course, had a great year. The defense played very strong, and Richard just grew as a potential hire. This year, he took a step back, and teams may not be as hot on him now because of it, as the Cowboys' defense has been underwhelming this year. The statistics may not suggest it, but they've certainly not lived up to the preseason hype. And that, I think, is why people aren't as hot on Richard as they were last year. But he's still a very interesting potential hire with some of the work he has done throughout his career. Now, the reason I'd be strongly attracted to Kris Richard as a defensive coordinator for the New York Giants is because of our young, talented secondary. They haven't proven to be talented yet, but we have a lot of high draft picks in that secondary. They're young. Sam Beal, a first-round grade. DeAndre Baker, first-round pick. We've got guys that maybe he can mold. You saw what he did with the Byron Jones and turn them into very good players. And that is my strongest attraction with Kris Richard. Personally, I don't think he's going to be the head coach, much like the Patriots guy that they brought in, the special teams coordinator. But I do think he could be a great defensive coordinator specifically for this New York Giants team, a team in which has tried to build a young, up-and-coming secondary. What better guy to mold that than a guy that played in the secondary himself, a guy that created the Legion of Boom, and a guy that did great with the Cowboys in his first year, getting Byron Jones on the right track. I think he's an interesting hire as a defensive coordinator. I don't expect him to be our head coach, but like I said, you never know. He is young. Maybe they like that. They said they do want a guy that could bring energy and players can relate to. That doesn't necessarily mean you got to be 41 years old to do that, though. So we'll see how it all plays out. But Kris Richard's interview has come and gone. I didn't read any quotes as to how it went. I'm sure it'll be nothing but positive things on both ends. But, yeah, Richard is in the books, and we'll hear, I think, from McCarthy tomorrow, so that'll be interesting to hear about. I know some Giants fans are big on him, being that he is the most established of all these candidates. He does have a Super Bowl ring and had success with the Green Bay Packers, even though a lot of people attributed that to having Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. But we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out, guys. But Richard, I think, is a really interesting name as a defensive coordinator. We'll see what the Giants think of him as a potential head coach. As always, guys, if you like what you watch, please subscribe, drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.